And good evening. Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the RS Hero program. And I'm your host, George Pardos. Apologize earlier. We tried to do an intro. One of our sites was not letting us broadcast. So we had to go back and restart all over again. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you about something that happened my junior year at Ohio State. And the reason is it's I talk a lot about sports and stuff like this, but this carries over to a lot of the other things you're doing. So my junior year at Ohio State, I had a really bad 10 days, and it was one of the roughest 10 days I'd had. And prior to our prior to my senior year. Now, our senior year, the rules changed a little bit, but in 19 my junior year, the rules were a little bit different. We didn't have the 20-hour limit back on training. So again, we were, not able to do certain things, and as a result, we were having Russ was just working us to death. And so there was a period of time, about 10 days, that I almost quit. I had had enough. I had, I was having bad practices, and all of that accumulated with me and Ray Mendoza getting into a fight in the wrestling room. So we were having a bad day, and I don't remember what started it. He pushed me into the wall. I pushed him back, and we just started throwing hands. And our coach kind of said, Ken Ramsey at the time just said, hey, let gravity, and well, our coach was Russ Ellickson and Jim Jordan, but Kenny was he was like, just let gravity and gravity and physics let this one play itself out, and we did. And so that was kind of the one of the worst days I'd had. And so I leave practice that day, and I had to talk with Russ, and I said, Russ, I'm just having a rough time. I can't, I'm not able to perform. And mind you, in '92, I qualified for the Olympic trials in later on in the year. But prior to that, we were wrestling a lot. We were working out a lot. So, like one day we would have a morning run at 7:30, like at 7 o'clock, we'd run the stadium. We'd have practice, we'd have lifts. So there's times that I was working out 3 times a day. It just got to me. And so what I did is I took a couple of days off. I took a couple mental days. And I actually did nothing in those 2 days except sit. I went to class. I didn't go to practice. I just didn't work out. And it was at the end of the second day, and actually the third day, I went back and I felt much better. And the funny part about it was, it was like I took 2 full days off. I had gone to the Colorado Rose on Saturday and got the big T-bone steak and some wings, and I just got a chance to relax. The reason I say this is that even if you're doing something you like, and I love wrestling. I've wrestled since I was junior in high school. And I still get on the mat. Even if you're doing something you like, eventually you're going to get to a point that you're going to something is you're going to that you're going to wind up doing something that is just absolutely going to be horrible. You're just not going to get a and you're just not going to get anywhere. You're just not going to get there. You just aren't. It's just not going to happen. And the point of it is that if you're at that point, and if you get there, then you are going to have a breakdown. I mean, you're just going to wind up breaking down. Why is this important? Well, we get to the point today and especially as veterans, let me tell you this. Veterans have a tendency to think that you've got to go full bore all the time. And just on Friday alone, we had a Navy SEAL candidate at during buds died. Another one went to the hospital, and that is sometimes we do things in training that you are going to wind up having at least somebody get hurt. Well, think about that. The most elite organization in the world had somebody die in training, and that's not the first time that that's happened. So the point of it is, um, and the part of the problem has been is that a lot of it is that that you wind up having, you have burnout. And how do you do that? Well, that and that if you wind up having burnout, it what if you wind up having burnout, what do you do? Well, it's again, it's the problem that you have with it is that you can't function. So there's a couple ways that we used to deal with this. When I wrestled for the Marine Corps, Thursday afternoons was playtime. And we used to have Saturday morning practice most of the time, not all, but we used to have Saturday morning practice at 10 o'clock, and you would go and drill. And, most of it was, when we say drill, you practice technique. You work on your arm drags, you work on your, body lifts and stuff like that. And we did that at Ohio State too. Most wrestling, at Ohio, when I was at Ohio State, we worked, the only days we usually used to have was Saturdays off, or we would work out in the morning, have a light workout, and then Sunday night we would lift, and then Monday through Friday we'd have practice. Anyway, the issue with that is, what do you do when you're burned out, and what happens when you can't function normally? Well, you wind up either you're going to have to take some downtime, or number two is you got to cut back on your training. You got to cut back on the what your pace. You are going to have to then cut back on whether you are your operational level, and then on top of that is that with people that are when you're training, you also have to understand what you're 100%. And I've talked about this before. If you train for 21 days at past 90%, your central nervous system breaks down. You can't do it that way. And we tell people that all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I'll go 100. I'm big, so and so. I'll go 100. I'll go 100%, and I can do this." No, you really can't. You cannot. You really cannot go 100%. For more than like I said, more than a few 21 days. And people don't understand that. You've got to take breaks. You got to take a day off. You got to take a recuperation day. You got to you have to have an active rest day. And one of the things that happens with it is that that it gets your body a chance to relax. It gets your mind a chance to go to you go to rest. You get a chance to kind of gather your thoughts. And so a lot of it goes to the fact is that you then can at least recuperate, get better, and take replan. And so hey Frank, welcome to the Warrior, the VRS Heroes program. And so that's one of the things that you think about. Now, if you're there's a study that came out, and I I've said this a little bit, on a couple. 8 days is what a vacation should be. When you go out and you take a vacation, 8 days is the max, is the maximum vacation time you have, because that's where your body resets. And instead of taking longer vacations, what you should take is more vacations. And that is where people kind of get don't get that right. Is you shouldn't take a 3 week or 4 week vacation. It doesn't help you anymore. What you should do is take 3 8-day vacations, paced throughout the year. Now, in the U.S., what's really sad about that is that we get 2 weeks vacation, and people, think in Europe, people get more vacation time. And again, it's you've got to be able to recharge your batteries, because if you're always tired, if you're always angry, tired, when there's an old saying is that fatigue makes cowards of us all. Well, I remember, we used to when we used to spar, and we were training MMA, or we would be in the cage, doing sparring sessions. When a guy got so tired he couldn't hold up his hands, or he got to the point that that he just couldn't protect himself, we just stopped. Because what would happen is you would get hurt during that time. If you're sparring and the guy runs out of steam, you're going to wind up getting hurt. Now, does everybody do that? No, but I've seen more people get hurt at the like at the end of practice, because people are goofing off, or you're tired, you're fatigued, you're not doing the same thing, than at the beginning of practice. So you're down to the last 15-20 minutes, and kids are you're starting to warm down. One of the things that we used to have, and I'll tell you this, is when we had practice, the last 10 minutes we would wind down. We would we would do some calisthenics. We would do like mountain climbers, push-ups, sit-ups, and stuff like that. But at the end of the practice, we were done. We very rarely went live, towards the end of the practice. We just didn't stop and go live. Well, one of the issues with that has been is that I've seen people that and especially one of the things that I've seen this in the most. Now, I haven't seen it's not as much as the MMA gyms, but in the boxing gyms, guys will get in the ring and will be wore out and still try to spar. And that doesn't do anything good. That doesn't do really anything good for you. You wind up, again, you'll get hit with punches you normally don't get hit with, and so on. And that is one of the problems that we have, is that people don't plan practice. And I've seen that a lot of times. Like, we used to have on the wall what we would do for practice. Like, we would do warm-ups, running back and forth. Then we would do live drilling for 15 minutes, where you practice technique. Then we would do matches. Sometimes we do 4 to 5 matches a day. And then, but we would have that planned out. And the reason is that you kind of want to have a structured practice. You don't want to have a practice where people are not, they don't know what's going on. The other issue too is with it is that also with, when you schedule practice, it's the same thing as scheduling a work day. If you have a work day and you go into work, you should have your work day scheduled at least, not the whole day, but a majority of your day should be, could you imagine running a business without a schedule? Well, you can't do that. So, you have to, and sometimes you got to start all over again. Like, we had, and one of the things that we would do at the beginning of the year, or after breaks or stuff like that, is we would have light practices. Why? Because you want to get people back into the groove of thing. When we started to practice in October, we might only go for 20. I mean, I'm sorry, we would might only go for an hour. We wouldn't even wrestle live. I remember um, my my third year at Ohio State. Um, we had the way our quarter started. We started in October, a week later than normal, and it's only because of the way the school had started that year. Um, and as a result of it, we wound up having shorter practices, a little bit more intense, but shorter practices. And we'd only go for an hour, and 20 minutes of it was drilling. And so I understand that maybe a lot of this is might be boring for some of you guys, but this is what at that level exactly how you handle it. And so let's say that you're dealing with stuff today. You're dealing with stuff in business today or life in general. If you don't have a schedule, how do you know what pace are you on? I mean, you take a look at let's take a look at business. I look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk has his schedule down every hour. Well, if you have your schedule down, what is it that you're trying to accomplish for that day? How do you know that if you're done or not? With if you're in a sales position, look at Salesforce. Salesforce keeps track of how many sales calls you've made during the day, how many contacts, constant contact is the same way. So what I say about this is that you need to have the same kind of the same kind of approach to a practice as you do to business. And that's why it's also important when you are in business that you wind up having some downtime to regather your thoughts, to regather your mindset, your headspace. Because if you wind up being too overworked, you're going to make mistakes and you're not going to be productive. There are studies that have said that the 4-day-a-week work week has been shown to be very effective. 4 10-hour days, and you take Friday off and or Monday off, whatever. Or a lot of people do the midweek thing, so they work Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, and then come. But it's 4 10-hour days. You're 40 hours in, and you have a day off where you can get a chance to get caught up. Because I mean, if you're working 5 days a week, then you're spending the weekend trying to get things caught up and doing errands and stuff when some places might not be open. So that's all I'm saying to you. And if you are, and I say this to go back to overtraining, if you're overworked, think about that. Think about when are you going to make the most amount of mistakes at the end of the shift, right? I mean, you're going to make mistakes at the end of the day, and there's a scene in The Departed was like, why is the last part of the day so hard? Well, because again, you're tired, you're grumpy and all that, and then you're tired, you're grumpy, you don't feel like doing anything. Of course it's going to be. And so the and so again, this is why you need to have business coaching as well as personal coaching and training. I've seen a lot of one of the things that I've also seen too is people think that you go at an unrealistic pace. And I've seen that a lot of times in when people that have never trained at an elite level try to try to emulate that. And I'll share a story about there's a thing called the Bulgarian method. If you guys are not familiar, the Bulgarians set the most amount of world records in lifting ever. They did it by chemically enhancing their athletes, but that's another story. But part of the Bulgarian method was that they competed, or they operated 95, 100%, 105% of their max every day. So they were breaking world records every day. They were in the gym, clean and jerking, at 100% of their, and they did it every day, and they went to, they were doing it to failure. They were doing front squats to failure 2 times in the morning. That's a lot of load work. So there are people that have tried to do that. They've tried to emulate that kind of training, and they just get squished. And the reason is first of all, you're not a Bulgarian, you're not an elite athlete, you haven't done that. So if you haven't competed at that level, what makes you think you're going to be able to train at that level? And so and I say that is because you go into a gym, and the funniest people that I've seen because of YouTube are people that go into a gym and say shit that is just, it's just not real. I mean, you can't do certain things. You can't, if you're training, let's say that you're in the elite level, 1%, 1% or 2% increase puts you on the gold medal podium. If you're Usain Bolt, at 10, 10%, you're not going to get a 10% increase. You're running 9.9s, you're not going to get a 10% increase from training. You're going to get maybe a 1% or 2% increase. 2% increase is the difference between a silver and a gold. So, people are unrealistic. And it's the same thing with, with Olympic lifting. You haven't seen the jumps in Olympic lifting that you've seen in powerlifting. Why? Well, one of them is technique, and the other two is equipment. There's just not equipment that will make up for a clean and jerk. Tasha Lakazadze right now is the world record holder at super heavyweight for the clean and jerk, and it's like 586 pounds. The first the first one to do 500 was in the 70s. From 1970, in 50 years, it's gone up 86 pounds. The bench, though, Ted Arcidi benched 705 in, it was either 86 or 87. I can look it up. Scott Mendelson has hit 1100. And that's an increase in 400 pounds. What's got better? Well, it's not technique. It's one is equipment. They have bench shirts. They have, suits. They've got, all sorts of, multiply, Ted Arcidi basically benched 705 raw. It was, the shirt that he did it in wasn't even a shirt, not even compared to the one today. So the point that I'm saying about this is that it's, and so they didn't jump 20, they didn't jump like that. So again, if you are, training, if you go back in there, understand, keep a pace, keep a journal, have realistic goals. And like I said, going back to burnout, if you start, being tired and if you start being tired, cranky, and all that, from training or from work, it's time to take a break. And especially, and I say this, you're no one, don't kill yourself for a job that's going to replace you 5 minutes after you die. Seriously. I mean, no one is ever going to do that. And that is one of the worst things ever, is that you overtrain, you overwork, and you kill yourself for what? A job that's not, so anyway, I hope you guys learned something from the show today. We will probably see you next week. And then we are looking for another show on Monday nights. We have one of our Monday night show, Ron Ripley, has left. So if you know anybody that's interested in doing a show, let us know. And we, like I said, we wish you all the best. And we will talk to you shortly. Thank you again for supporting VRS.